All right, here we go. Day 17, growth in writing. Today's reminder about writing. Growth occurs through a series of writing attempts. Growth is not solely dependent on completions, though going all the way from thought to final edited product ought to happen a couple times a year per child. Your job is to create writing opportunities that match your child's developmental stage and to support his or her attempts. Then, once in a while, bring a project all the way through the revision process and a final edit of mechanics. You'll notice growth over time, not in every project. You'll notice a trajectory of development, comfortableness with the process, and pride in the projects you complete together. It's short. I'm going to read it again. Today's reminder about writing. Growth occurs through a series of writing attempts. In other words, growth happens over time through many projects, not all at once in one project. Growth is not solely dependent on completions, though going all the way from thought to finished, final edited product ought to happen a couple times a year per child. Easy for me to say. Growth is not solely dependent on completions, meaning if your child writes a draft and it sits in a drawer and no one ever edits it, there was still growth taking place in the writing of it. Who believes that? Anyone out there believing that? In other words, growth in writing is about the effort to write, and it happens through a series of writing projects, not because every single one was brought to perfect completion. Your job is to create writing opportunities that match your child's developmental stage. How is that different than what you think your job is? Do you think your job is to ensure that when your child writes, every word is spelled correctly and all the punctuation has been corrected? Do you think your job is to ensure that your child does a whole bunch of writing formats by the time they're 18 and it's less important what they have to say? In other words, as long as it's structured well, is that enough? Do you think your job is to be rigorous and hard on them and ensure that they never leave any mess because someone might grade them someday? Writing growth happens in direct proportion to how safe the space is for writing risk. Writing growth happens in direct proportion to how safe the space is for writing risk. What that means is the only way you have an emotionally safe space for risk is if you allow for everything to show up. Everything. You can't only permit perfectly edited copy because that process is exhausting. I come from a professional writing background. My mom, as many of you know, author of 85 books. Me, I've been a professional writer now for over 20 years. In that lifestyle, you have far more writing that sits around on your computer, in files, on scraps of paper, than you do that is carefully edited, published work. There's a reason for that. You can only figure out what you want to say if you say lots of stuff you don't care about. If you give freedom and space for someone to focus exclusively first on content and ignore all of the demands, the picky ones, around punctuation, spelling, and format. I'll go further. Right now, some of you know I'm working on a book. And yesterday I got my first editorial feedback from the person I trust to give it. And the first thing she told me to do was to separate out the pieces that feel like I'm trying really hard to write a book from the pieces where I'm just really enjoying the writing. How about that? Even when you're a pro, someone has to remind you to go back and get in the sandbox and play again and write again. That's what we're talking about when we talk about writing growth. It's a sandbox. It's an opportunity to create space for writing growth. And this happens over a series of writing projects. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. Did you know that there is not a single homeschooled child, not a single one, who has ever gotten a math problem wrong? When faced with a page of math problems, they get them 100% right. Do you know that? You know why? Because there is not a homeschooling parent alive who doesn't make their child go back and correct every single problem. Have you noticed that? Don't you, when you see a wrong problem, wrong completion on a problem in a math book from one of your kids, don't you go back and you say, well, now what went wrong? Let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. How many of you do that? I did. And it's funny because I share this story at every conference I speak at, and there's immediate laughter of recognition because we all are obsessed with there being no mistakes. In third grade, Mrs. Burns' class, kids got 3 wrong, and there was like a -3 at the top. She did not sit there with 30 kids and go through and make them redo every problem they got wrong. Maybe, in some cases, that is a fabulous thing. The attentiveness to making sure that our children understand what they're doing in a particular page of work. On the flip side, that level of scrupulosity can sometimes create pressure that we don't really want to be there, as though it's not okay to get 17 problems correct, and 3, we just aren't perfectly practiced yet. We just haven't gotten the skill down to automaticity. But hey, we're getting there. We got 17 right, and tomorrow we're going to do another 20. So allow that practice to deliver the result, not our scrupulosity to make sure every single one is correct the moment we look at it. So when we are working with our children in writing, it's the same thing. Not every word has to be perfectly spelled. Not every punctuation mark has to be perfectly placed. What we're looking for in those early projects over a series of time is space for this risk. And then, once in a while, take one of them through the revision process. So let's keep going. It's a short one, but I'm pausing to commentate. Then, once in a while, bring a project all the way through the revision process and a final edit of mechanics. Did you know there's a difference between revision and editing? Most of us think those words are interchangeable, and I think in most of the world, they are treated as interchangeable. But in my world, in the world of Brave Writer, I found it valuable to put them in their own categories, to not allow them to be interchangeable, and here's why. When I worked as a magazine editor, I saw revision as asking the author to go back into their original work and make it come to life in a fresh way. I would notice maybe this needed an anecdote, or perhaps we could redo the opening, or there isn't enough dialogue in here. I want to hear some conversations you had, not just about the conversations. So we would go in and reimagine the piece, and we would look for ways to enhance its readability and make it more compelling for the reader. That's revision. Revision is bringing fresh vision to the original piece of writing. But editing was what I did. I went through and I found where she used a semicolon incorrectly, where she forgot to capitalize a proper noun. I paragraphed things to meet the needs of that particular publication so that visually there would be visual hooks, ways for the reader to keep going and not just see like some massive block of text. Editing is that final mop-up of mechanics that allows the reader to have a satisfying experience of ease while reading. That is not what revision is. Revision is where you can take the original piece of writing and move things around. That's what computers do so well for us. We've got copy and paste or cut and paste. We can move things around. We don't have to be bound by the very first burst of inspiration that is in a certain sequence and then just fix the punctuation and spelling. That's not revision. That's copy editing. And on a first burst of writing, we don't want to just fix the spelling and punctuation. That's the least interesting part of the process, also the least time consuming, and really, truthfully, the least important. You can hire pretty much anyone to do that for you. What you can't hire people to do is have the original thinking or bringing the fresh vision. Yes, you can have people give ideas to you, but the author has the final say. So, lots of drafts, lots of free writes, lots of pieces and fragments of writing. Encourage that in your family. Then, gather all these little collectibles of writing over a several month period and pick one. Have your child pick it. That child can say, I like this one. I feel good about taking this one through the revision process. Then you can go through and use revision steps. Now, I've written all about that in the Writer's Jungle, and we're going to talk about it tonight in the webinar. So if you need help with revision, sign up for that because I cannot do it justice this morning. But revision is the best part of writing. Any professional writer will tell you that. It's the most fun. You know why? You've already sort of dragged all of those words out of your body. You've drugged them out, you've dredged them out, you've upchucked them out, you've wrestled them out. That's hard. But now that the words are there, hello, finger paint. You get to play. You can snip and pin and clip and move. You can go away from it, write another paragraph somewhere else and bring it in and stick it inside. That's what's fun. That's the fun part of writing, revision. And then you do that over a period of days or weeks. You don't write in the morning, revise at lunch, and edit in the afternoon. That is too much for everyone. And you cannot get any fresh perspective if you do your free writing and your revision on the same day. It's just not enough time has gone by. Don't be in such a hurry. You can do revision next week. Give your child a whole week away from this wonderful draft. Come back to it with fresh eyes and go back in. And now you get to think about it in a new way because you aren't having to generate it from scratch. And then finally, after the revision process has happened, take another few days and go back, have your child go back to it. And the only burden they have at that point is to notice misspellings and to find punctuation errors. And they're going to do the job they can, and then you're going to come back in like the senior editor and clean it all up. We'll talk all about that tonight on the webinar. Jeanette is posting another link in case that's interesting to you. Okay, so let's finish up. You will notice growth over time, not in every project. You'll notice a trajectory of development, comfortableness with the process, and pride in the projects you complete together. In other words, it takes time even to get comfortable with the whole notion of drafting or free writing, waiting a little time, going back in to revise several times, rearranging the pieces, taking a little time off, looking at it again, rearranging it a little more, adding some stuff from outside, taking a break from it again, coming back one more time, making sure you really like what's there, and then going in for the mop-up, the final edit, the making it look nice for people who are going to read it besides you. And then you're done. Do you know how long that takes? It takes a month minimum. And all these programs that have you writing an essay a day or an essay a week are unfair to the writer. That is not good writing practice. Will they have to face that in college? Yeah, but your kids aren't in college. Can we give them time to develop? Would we expect a 2-year-old to be able to be fluent enough in speech to lead a business meeting? Of course not. We don't say, well, the 2-year-old's going to have to do a business meeting someday. We better have them start now. No, we give them time to become orally fluent. We let them practice other oral formats like recitation of a poem or answering the door and introducing their cousin to their neighbor and how to talk on the telephone politely. This is what we teach 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds. We don't have them leading business meetings with PowerPoint presentations. But when they're in 7th grade, we might actually let them do a little oral report or join a certain acting team and learn how to act on a stage or how to use a microphone in front of their whole community, whether it's a church or it's the YMCA. Yeah, but we certainly don't expect early speakers to live up to the demands of adulthoods while they're children, and neither should you with writing. So for children, A month is a very reasonable amount of time to spend on one writing project, taking it all the way through from original draft to the completed copy that everyone reads, particularly if we leave some of those pieces of writing alone. They got it out, they expressed their thoughts, and now they're done. That's perfect. That's perfect. You do not have to correct every piece of writing. Lastly, your kids may enjoy throwing some writing away, much to your own chagrin as a mother hoarder of homeschool projects. Because who wouldn't be? I kept everything. I've got whole boxes of it still, and my children are in their 20s. I can't part with it. But they need to have the right to part with some of their work because it's theirs. It's not yours. And some of it is too painful to reread. Either the thoughts, the ideas, the forced work, the inability to spell well at that stage of development. Your kids have a say. And this is their work, and it represents their personhood out in the world, and they should not have to only keep it for you if they really hate it. And sometimes it's liberating to know you can toss one of your pieces of work. You get to ball it up and throw it in the garbage and never see it again. That's empowering. That means I'm the author. I have authorial control. And kids love that. So take advantage of that today. I'm so glad that you are all here and commenting. I see some of you are very emphatic. You are using all caps. Something just to think about in future. All caps on the internet means you're shouting. And occasionally, that's what it feels like to read all caps. I know none of you are in that category because you are all writing very loving notes. And I am excited to read them. But I thought I would pass that tip along because sometimes I've seen it start internet wars over nothing. We don't want that on our page. We want happy, friendly, supportive comments. Amber says, I have a weird anxiety that someone is going to come to my house and make me show proof that we are doing work. Amber, that is not a weird anxiety. Thank you for posting that there. That is a common anxiety. In fact, it's probably little talked about in the homeschool world, even though homeschooling is now legal in all 50 states in America. I don't know what the rules are in Australia and England, but I know that they do it there. Canada, it is legal to homeschool. So even though it's legal in most places, we still are worried that that right could be taken away. And we are also worried that someone outside our families will peer in through the windows or over our shoulders at Thanksgiving and do a pop quiz on our 7-year-old. We are worried that someone is going to hold us accountable in a way that we were unprepared for. And that is a scary responsibility and burden. And it creates and exerts pressure on you that is sometimes even invisible to you. It's like you are performing for this mysterious ghost that follows you around. And you know what you do with that anxiety and fear? You download it on your kids' heads. Those days when you are feeling insecure, when your child doesn't produce at the level you thought he should, that's when you take it out on the child. So here's a way to manage that anxiety. 1, find out the laws in your state. Just do it. Know what's legal. Can someone actually walk through your front door in the middle of the day and spot check you on homeschooling? Find out. Don't take my word for it. Go to the state and find out. What do they have the right to do to your homeschool? So you know, what are they looking for? Number 2, get in a posse of friends in your state or your country and remind each other that when you have that feeling, you're going to call each other and someone's going to talk you down off the ledge so that you don't take it out on your kids. Say, oh my gosh, he wrote this piece and his spelling was atrocious and I thought he already knew all these words and I don't know how to get him to understand how important this is. And I'm worried someone's going to find out. Call your friend. Get a partner you can call and tell the freaking truth to. That's what you all need. That's what I needed. You have to have someone who knows the truth of your anxiety, or you will tell the truth of that anxiety in your behavior to your kids. Okay? And then the third thing is this. Breathe. Calm that adrenaline rush down. There is no problem presenting itself today that you can fix today. There is no problem presenting itself today that you can fix today. That's true for writing, math, habits, chores, personality development, maturity, obedience, if that's something you care about. Nothing that you think is a problem can be fixed today. I'm here to tell you. Growth happens over time. That is exactly what I just said in today's reading. Growth happens over time. I don't personally like the word obedience because it's a zero-sum game. They're either obeying or not obeying. But what about if we change the language to promoting cooperation or collaboration? Well, collaborative projects and cooperation take time. You have to actually get to know the personalities on both sides of that equation. You have to take seriously the impediments to collaboration and cooperation. Obedience says, I don't care about the impediments. You should have done it already. Stuff your feelings. Do what I say. Cooperation says, here's the agenda for today. I want you to participate. Oh, you don't want to participate? Let's look at that together and figure out the solution that will help us both be on the same team. That's what cooperation is. That's what collaboration is. And there is nothing that you are trying to negotiate today that you can solve for all time today. You can't. Growth happens over time. Maturity happens over time. And guess what? Your agenda is not the supreme agenda of the universe. It's just yours. It's the agenda you have to make your life feel better for you. It's what makes your life feel better, more secure, more peaceful, more safe for you. And your kids have a whole different notion of what life is going to be like for them that feels safe, secure, and satisfying. And you have to negotiate the space between you because, unfortunately, you're the adult with maturity. The requirement of obedience says the child needs to be more mature than you. The desire for cooperation says, I have maturity and I'm going to walk my child into cooperation by honoring his or her limits. That's the difference. And in writing, it is everything. The reason I talk about this so much, and I never tire of it, is that writing represents the spirit of the child. It is a photograph of your child's inner world and life. It is the most sacred aspect of the schooling experience. Do you get this? It is not about college. It's not about essays. It's not about mechanics. It is about a record of your child's interior. A more beautiful record than any photograph you can take today on your cell phone. Even though we prize those, we would run back into burning buildings to save our children's photographs. But what I'm telling you is, the writing they entrust to you, that's worth running into a building to save. And that you will read again. And that will represent an image of who your child is, so different than what's in a picture, because it's your child's inner world. And if you can fan the flames around that, if you can make space for that to show up, if you can be enthusiastic, even when all they risk is, ugh, I hate writing. This is so dumb. It's stupid. I wish my mom wouldn't make me do it. Why do I have to write? Blah, 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 pee, 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 poop, 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 poop. Even when they write that, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're showing you what's really going on inside. They are risking your disapproval by telling you their freaking truth. And here's what's so awesome. You get to hear it. There is no one else on the planet who gets to hear what you get to hear about the mind life of your child. You get to hear it. And they took the chance to tell you. You know what you give back? Love. You put thick, yummy layers of love, slather it all over them. Laugh at how ridiculous they're being when they want that reaction. Empathize with the depth of their anger and frustration when they show you that. If you are flummoxed and your own emotional system is overwhelmed by a child's self-expression, which happens occasionally, Say thank you for sharing. Thank you for risking. Thank you for writing. Thank you for even being willing to tell me what makes me uncomfortable. You can do that. You are building a partnership, a collaboration. And the only way collaborations work is if everybody in the band sorts out the teamwork. Why do most rock bands break up? Because they can't collaborate, not because they can't play music. If you want your kids to stay in your band, to not quit, to not walk out in the middle of the tour, you have got to be good at collaboration and partnership. And writing gives you the perfect opportunity to develop intimacy with your child, to be on the same side of that page, not he's here and the page is between you, right? We don't want this. Here's him, here's the page, and here's me. We don't want the page between you. We want to both be on the same side. Can I do this? Like this, together. Here's the page, and we're together. That's what we want. And you get there through cooperation, collaboration, and partnership. Taking seriously a child's feelings. They are not to be discredited, scoffed at, overturned, managed, manipulated, punished, or ignored. Take them seriously. When you do, you might be surprised. They move through them very quickly because children don't have as much baggage as adults. They don't have to hold a grudge for 30 years. They don't have to hold on to bitterness and resentment because they don't have a whole lot built up yet. So if they get a little love back, a little understanding, they tend to get off it faster than the adults do. You're the one who harbors bitterness because you've got 35 or 40 years of practice at people not cooperating with your agenda. So let it go. Take up running and yoga. Start knitting. If you are putting too much pressure on your child, get a hobby. That's what I always say. At the moment where homeschooling is the most important thing in your life, please go get something else to do. Do not let homeschooling be the only important thing in your life. Take up knitting, go to an art museum and have a day off, get your hair done, repaint the upstairs bedroom, submit an article of your own for publication and see what that feels like. Get some empathy going for process here. Yes, even adults like their feelings to be validated. Well, hello, all human beings. We show up in the world as much as someone else gets us. We benefit from that. That is the primary role of a mother, is to be the mirror of the child. That is your whole unique job, is to help your child show up in the world and know that they can be known. And all of our pain and loss, all of our therapeutic, experiences, when we sign up for therapy and we go every week, all of that is about the mother and father wound, is it not? So let's not add to it. Now, I used to say to my kids all the time, we won't be able to afford college, but I promise we will always pay for therapy. Because I knew, no matter how much I tried to do a good job, I'm going to wound my children. That's part of this dynamic. But what you can offer, in addition to the wounding, is the understanding and the taking responsibility. And if you model that to your kids and you live it authentically, they're going to learn to do that in their own relationships. And wouldn't that be a gift in the marriages they choose? Wouldn't that be a gift in the workplace? Wouldn't that be a gift when they have their own children? We get to grow all the way up as adults because we have children. Children help you grow all the way up. They are not doing you a disservice. They're not rebellious. They don't hate you. They're not bad. They aren't horrible people. They didn't come into the world with a secret agenda to thwart your life. No, they are the chief opportunity that we have to become the full, mature, well-rounded, wise people as adults that we are meant to be. Children give you that chance. Thank them. Thank them. When they test your patience, thank them. Say, oh, chance for me to keep growing. I don't have to be a child. I can be the wise adult who is patient. What about that? Their job isn't to make your life easier. Your job is to make their life easier. Flip it around. You'll be shocked. It's so empowering. Once you get it, once it's not about them not doing what you want, once it's about you figuring out how to help them, life becomes so much more fun. It's so much more interesting. And that is totally true in the writing process. That is the key to writing. Writing collaboration is creating the safety for your child to show up as self, for you to react to that with a lot of love, validation, and support, and then imagining together as a team where this could go. And that's the juice of homeschool. That's what makes homeschooling awesome. In every subject area, every day, you can just show up, see what presents in the room, and support it. Haley says, I think it was you who also said their job is not to be our success. Oh, wonderful point. Yes, I have said that. I might not be the only one. But our kids' job isn't to prove that homeschooling is viable. It's not to prove that we were good at educating them. Their only job is to grow up. That's it. And they need to get an education. Well, of course they do. But we already know that lots of educational styles produce educated adults. Millions, billions, it's not an understatement to say that billions of people have created the world we live in through public school. That is not an exaggeration. Homeschool is a privilege. It's an opportunity. And we all think it's better than public school. But public school is not inadequate to produce what we have in the world. I mean, have you taken a look around? Go read the book. Oh, this book is worth it. Go read the book, Station 11, by Emily, is it Mandel? I think that's her last name. She was homeschooled in Canada. And she wrote this novel that was a National Book Award finalist last year. And it's all about what happens after a pandemic in our world. Read that book, and you will suddenly feel totally differently about home education, about the opportunity to live in the world we live in, and how impressed you will be with what 8 billion people over thousands of years have produced for us to enjoy and live in today. And believe me, they got that done through all different educational models through history. So the goal isn't to prop up homeschool or your own ego. It is to take advantage of this moment in time where you and your children actually want to do this homeschooling project. That's your only job. And their job is to just show up like kids, pour the cereal, pick on their sibling, want to stay on Minecraft all morning, not always particularly interested in your book choice, sometimes really gets into a project and shocks you with their imagination and brilliance and passion, and then to, sort of forget that they were ever passionate and go back to not doing it. That's what kids do. That's what it means to be a child, and you were the same way. You just can't remember. Ask your mom. Try to get back in touch with who you used to be so you've got more space for your children. Thank you. Emily St. John Mandel. Yay. Thank you, Jeanette. Station 11. Great book. I swear I read it on an airplane, and you'll see airplanes factor into this book in a significant way. I read it on an airplane as I was landing in Los Angeles, one of the biggest cosmopolitan, metropolitan centers in the world. And I was sobbing buckets, like bawling, looking out the window, feeling so grateful for the miracle of flight, the fact that I had a cup holder, the wonder of having ever been a mother, the fact that I was raised in LA and now live in Cincinnati and I can connect through the internet. Oh, it's so beautiful. Great book. I'm so proud of all of you. This is such an ambitious project. Homeschooling is not for the faint of heart or the weak. It is a grand risk, and you are up to it. And thousands before you, millions now, have succeeded and ended the journey, and they look back on their memories fondly. And their children have turned out. They've become adults. Even in the families where fundamentalism and abuse threaten to rob these children of being amazing adults, those kids are all writing these incredible memoirs and pieces and are advocating for children's rights everywhere. It's weird to me, but homeschooling produces an amazing brain, no matter how you do it. There is something about the critical thinking piece that seems to show up in homeschooled kids, even when parents botch it. So I just say that to you as a little gift of reassurance, because I'm repeatedly amazed at the adults that were homeschooled. They're amazing. They're self-starters. They know their own minds, and they are expressors into the world. What a privilege to be a part of that journey. Let's take a deep couple of breaths, okay? I just feel the need. This one got really much longer and bigger than I was anticipating. I was like, this is a short one. We'll be done in 20 minutes. Here we are 40 minutes later. Okay, ready? Deep breaths together. Another inhale. Ready? In yoga, they'd always be like, a vocal exhale, and I'd be all embarrassed looking around. So let's do it again. Let's make our exhales really loud. Let's just be really ridiculous. Ready? Ready for the inhale? Ready, go. Little Howard Dean moment there. Okay, if I haven't scared everybody away, I'm going to hang up before I get too silly. A Gracious Baseball. It's available on our store in Amazon. I love you all. This has been really fun. We will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic is good. It's longer. It's called Happiness Is. So if you're in search of a little happiness, tune in tomorrow at 8. Otherwise, I'll see the rest of you who make it in to the webinar on the Writer's Jungle tonight. Love you all. Mwah. Live honestly, write bravely. You can do this. Bye.